From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, where England's Ashes cricketers are being allowed to talk to the media again. It was reported that they were being pulled from pre-season interviews with their counties until the results of the ECB's Ashes review had come out. Thankfully, some complaints and a bit of uproar from fans, clubs and the media means we've had that good old U-turn and players are talking again.
Heavens above, players been allowed to speak to the media. I'm Clint Wheeldon from the ABC in Perth, filling in for Jim Maxwell. It's been football rather than cricket that's been the focus here in Perth. The Women's Asian Cup of 2026 has been taking place. We had the semi-finals here in the West just the other night. Much excitement with the host nation getting past China to go through to the final where they'll take on Japan. But good to be talking about the cricket rather than the football for a short period here.
I'm Charu Sharma in Bangalore, back home a little earlier than anticipated. My work up north in Rajasthan finished early, and I got back not only to showers, but the news that the Chinnaswamy Stadium is now finally approved for hosting matches. And that's, of course, very good news for the IPL team, RCB. Yesterday, I believe Virat Kohli was spotted at the airport, so the buzz is beginning. There was a bit of a lull now, but the storm is about to hit India in just about a week or so.
Chinnaswamy is back in business. That's good to hear. Now, Gary Kirsten is back in charge of a test-playing nation. He's taken on the role of head coach of Sri Lanka's men. Kirsten is highly regarded in the game, having famously led India to the 2011 World Cup title and, of course, helping South Africa to make it to number one in the test rankings. He'll begin his new job next month after signing a 2-year deal. And I've had the pleasure of catching up with him for Stumped, and he started by telling me just how the opportunity to coach Sri Lanka came about.
I got a call from Sri Lankan cricket asking whether I would be interested to consider the role. So I just said, well, I'm kind of currently with Namibia preparing for the World Cup, and maybe we can have a chat when we come down to Colombo. And they phoned me when we got there because our last game was against Pakistan in Colombo. And they called me, and it just went from there.
What do you feel you can achieve with the group of players that Sri Lanka currently has?
Well, I think, Alison, the one nice thing about Sri Lankan cricket is that it continues to produce talent. I mean, that's never going to go away. South Africa is similar to that. It's just, there are always good cricketers coming through. The fact that Sri Lanka made the under-19 final, World Cup final, is testament to that. So it's always nice to see that there are a lot of young cricketers around. I'm particularly excited. I'm heading over there in a few weeks' time. I'm quite excited over the next couple of months just to get a real good understanding of the depth of player that they have in Sri Lanka. So that would be an absolute priority for me to understand. But then, and then obviously just to have competition for places, which I think is an absolute must for every international cricket team. As a coach, you need any real directive other than the team's got to win and it's got to keep performing, and Sri Lanka are ranked 6 in ODIs and tests at the moment and 8 in T20 cricket, so there's work to be done. But they're a proud cricket nation and they've got lots of talent in their system. So I'm excited to hopefully unlock the potential of the system.
And did you need to make sure that you had assurances that you had selectorial input? I guess I'm thinking back to what happened with the Pakistan role.
Yeah, that was an interesting journey, that's for sure. Listen, I mean, when you are coaching a national team, there are bigger stakeholders. You're not going to an auction or a draft where you can pick who you want to pick. It's in the end you are responsible to everyone that is a stakeholder and that has an interest in Sri Lankan cricket doing well. So I've got to accept that. It sounds like I can give the team a fair amount of direction and have a decent amount of influence, and that for me is what is the most important thing.
How did that sort of 6-month period in Pakistan shape you? I mean, how do you look back on that time?
Well, it wasn't 6 months; it was 5 months, and
right.
It was 6 T20 games in total. So pretty much incidental in terms of an experience. In the end, like, I just enjoy working with cricket players. And if you have cricket players, whether they're from England, West Indies, Zimbabwe, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, they're cricket players, they're professionals, we talk the same language, we connect on similar things, and we're professionals in that space. And, I enjoyed the Pakistan players. I did. I thought they dedicated to the game. They really want to do well. But as I've journeyed around the world, this is now my 4th international job. You get to experience different levels of interference, and every country has a slightly different way of looking at it. The level of interference can get quite intimidating, and it can also get quite involved. And sometimes where you have no or very little influence as a coach, then what's the point of doing it? I mean, I only do this job because I want to help a group of people be the best that can be. I've been a cricket professional, since I was 20 years of age. I'm now 58. That's 38 years in the game. If that is lost and you have no influence, and then I don't see the point.
Were you shocked to hear that Pakistan players were fined for underperforming at the T20 World Cup? Was that ever anything that was mooted when you were there?
No, it wasn't, but not particularly shocked. For me, it's just sad. I mean, those players are giving their all, and I got to know them well. I've got an emotional attachment to a lot of those guys. I saw them in Colombo, and it was great connecting with them again. And they're good guys. They want to do well for their country. So it's never nice when you see that. Yeah.
Just to draw on one other past experience of yours, when you had that great success of coaching India, obviously to the World Cup in 2011, they've just won the T20 World Cup, Champions Trophy holders. I'm sure they'll probably be going for the 3rd T20 World Cup in a row. Do you think they can also dominate in the test space as well? And what would they need to do to sort of dominate all around?
I don't know. I think that, they've really worked it out in white ball cricket. I mean, I think beating India in India is going to be a tough assignment for anyone. I just looked at that team that played in the final. I mean, every one of those players that I could think of, and I might be missing out one or two, but every one of them would have played over 200 IPL games. I mean, that's
huge experience.
That's a huge amount, so playing on their conditions with that level of experience is not going to be an easy assignment for anyone. And I think, in terms of test match cricket, they've got some work to do. I had a chat to Gotham while we were at the World Cup, and he's mindful that they've got some work to do at test match level. He finds it really challenging because the focus is not on test match cricket. It's more on the white ball stuff. So I think there's a hope for him that he can really get that format firing in Indian cricket. He was a proud test player himself, so he would want to get that format firing as best he can. But I think there are some challenges there with the amount of cricket that's being played at the moment, and getting people, getting a fast bowler to commit to a 25-over bowling day. It's not easy these days when guys are making a decent living bowling 24 balls, or at worst even 60 balls. So it is a challenge, but certainly something that they want to put some attention into.
Yeah. Do you think that's a challenge that will sort of creep into your job with Sri Lanka, getting that commitment to the long form game? I guess maybe Sri Lanka players are playing maybe a little less franchise cricket around the world than some other nations might be, but how does that balance fit overall in terms of the challenge for a cricket coach internationally?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all your test playing nations who are not the big three, it's a challenge for every one of those countries because they're playing 4 to 6 tests a year. So how do you get players interested in playing test match cricket when really there's so little focus on it? So it's tough. I don't think it's an easy thing to land. And again, when you commit to test cricket properly, players have got to get used to batting for a whole day. Bowlers are going to get used to bowling 20 plus overs in a day. So it's to get them, first of all, to get them trained up to do that in the congested schedule where there are leagues going on all the time. Players are wanting to go into the leagues. Now you're suddenly asking a group of players to commit to test cricket. If you're preparing for an Ashes, or that you've got 10 to 12 tests in the year and your focus is just on that, it makes a big difference. So I think it's a challenge for all those countries who are not playing much test cricket at the moment.
So to that end, with Sri Lanka, has your focus very much been laid out as preparation for that 2027 World Cup? That's the big driver?
Well, I think that's certainly important for us. For any country. I mean, that's 18 months away. So it's a nice amount of time to start putting some attention into that. For me, really important. If you're going to compete as a subcontinent team in South Africa, how's the schedule set up so that you can play a lot of cricket in those kind of conditions? So it's which is always going to be a challenge, and a challenge for every country. But I'd like to have a look at the schedule and get an understanding of that.
Yeah. Gary, thanks so much for being with us. Great to have your insights on so many aspects as well.
Thanks, Alison.
And Gary Kirsten, who's the new coach of Sri Lanka's men. And Clint and Charu have to say, a Gary Kirsten appointment just always looks like a good one to me. What do you say, Clint?
I agree, and certainly has had such success, as you mentioned, of course, with South Africa and India. I found it interesting that Sri Lanka's decided to go back to an international coach, and we know they've had success there in the past with Trevor Bayliss, Dav Watmore, Tom Moody, for examples that spring to mind. I would also think the point being made about the 2027 World Cup, if you're going to appoint somebody, put somebody in there that has, well, who would have more experience in how to have success in South Africa than Gary Kirsten. So I think they're great decisions. We've shown before, we've seen before that wherever he goes, he does have the ability to build a culture of winning, and I think that's something that Sri Lanka would be really keen to see instilled again.
I'm wondering what's going on in Sri Lanka, because the coach recently was their World Cup winner, Jayasuriya. And he would, you'd imagine, have all the ingredients to get his own people together, know them a lot better, be able to motivate them and so on and so forth. Because, I mean, we all know, and Gary said it too, that they are a very proud cricketing nation, whether test or otherwise. And of course, there's a lot of talent bursting through. So what is ailing them? I think the good news is that they are not sort of tumbling over. They've said, we've had a bad World Cup, but we've got to get up and rise and do something about it. So the appointment of somebody who's an internationally proven winning coach is, I think, once again, an indication that they are not giving up. I mean, they're still very keen to make sure that they rise in the rankings. And of course, it always helps to have somebody who's basically very good-natured. Because, to have a coach who's a little cantankerous, you never know, relationships sour. But Gary is very, very good in that area. And hopefully he'll flower. But it's good news that Sri Lanka are thinking ahead, thinking positively, and trusting themselves to do better as they go along under a coach that's done very well in essentially subcontinental conditions.
And he's very clear, isn't he, Charu, about that need to be able to shape his own team and have influence, in stark contrast to what he came up against when he was with Pakistan for just that 5-month period.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be a bit of a language barrier, Alison, because, it's okay to talk cricket with a bunch of cricketers, but, to be able to really get into the country and their cricket, the one problem that a lot of coaches from overseas may face is the fact that they're not able to kind of become one with the population because of the language. I think that's a major barrier. You might argue that cricket has no language, but there's much more to a coach's job, and particularly in getting to know his wards better and trying to mix with them and get to know their lives better. So in that sense, he's once again going to be at a bit of a disadvantage. But also the second disadvantage being potentially that we know in Pakistan, he mentioned what words did he use? Interference or involvement?
Yeah, it was the fact that he didn't have control over selection as the coach. That was the major issue. Yeah. Yeah,
I suspect in Sri Lanka, one of the many problems they've had, and I mean no major disrespect, is that their board too has been accused very often of interference by the government and elsewhere, and people from other areas or the ministers and things. And I wonder if that is going to continue. Somehow that can fall off and to give Gary free rein and respect the fact that he is the kind of cricketer he is, then he might have a better time. But if he is also to get a little discouraged and disappointed because of potentially this continuing interference, then I'm afraid, he may well say, well, what can I possibly do if I'm not getting what I really need and deserve?
It's also, Ali, that awkward situation where, and listening to what Gary's had to say, and I know speaking to Jason Gillespie, I think there were 3 different board of selectors in such a short period of time, all who had absolutely different ideas about who they wanted. And you ended up, go back to Jason Gillespie, who said it so well, he became, a match day analyst, and that's not what he signed up to do. So you almost, if you are Gary, you need to have the support of the board, the famous support of the board, but hopefully the same board for that entire period of time, because if they continue to do what happened in Pakistan, I don't blame any coach for saying, look, this isn't working at all.
Yeah. I want to go to what he said, Charu, about the India team and dominating the test game. What do they need to do there? And his interactions with Gautam Gambhir, the India head coach.
Yeah, well, from what I recall, Alison, he did mention when it came to red ball cricket that India has perhaps more challenges than anything else, and Gautam Gambhir also has said similar things. I just wonder if India is paying enough attention to red ball cricket. On one hand, of course, India still has a very long and enduring Ranji Trophy red ball season, and out of that come many new red ball heroes. But the attention really, to me, seems to be on white ball cricket, and all the triumphs of white ball cricket seem to be getting all the attention. So I wonder if the recent losses, and there was a big one to Australia, and of course at home, God forbid, they lost the series to New Zealand, to South Africa, in major ways. And I wonder if we're blanketing those over a little too quickly and saying, oh, we don't really have a problem, we'll get past it. But I do feel that the attention to red ball cricket and the success of red ball cricket is somewhat, diluted at this point of time. Also countered by or balanced by the fact that India's succeeding hugely in white ball cricket. So they're saying, well, we're okay then, our cricket's all right. And if we're losing here and there once in a while in red ball cricket, maybe that's okay. So it's a massive challenge, without doubt. And India are probably playing an average amount of test match cricket, but the attention is average or less. And it's the attention that needs to improve. There's enough red ball talent for sure. But I just think it's playing second fiddle to white ball in many ways.
Absolutely, when there is so much success being rightly celebrated amongst the white ball game in India. And that's all we've got time for then on this week's Stumped on Akashvani. Don't forget to follow us on X. We're at BBCWS Sports and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And check us out on YouTube by going to the BBC World Service YouTube. Thanks to Charu Sharma and Clint Wheeldon, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akashvani.